Welcome to the Versus Men's podcast, where we're having real conversations and stories on faith, manhood, relationships, culture, and everything else in between. These conversations are tough, but we're honestly doing them because we have to become the men of God that He's called us to be. You aren't the only one who's trying to figure out your faith, your marriage, or you're struggling with an addiction. That's why this podcast exists. So thanks for listening, and if you enjoy this content, like, subscribe, and send it to a friend who needs it. Thanks for joining. Welcome back to the Versus Men's podcast. Today, our guest is Jordan St. Cyr, who is just released his album, My Foundation, and you've got to give it a listen. It is incredible. You have some great songs on there, like the title track, My Foundation, Rescue. It's something that you guys are going to want to pick up, listen to on all the streaming platforms. Jordan, thanks for being here, man.
Man, so good to be here.
So we traditionally start out with some questions, some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
What's your favorite venue to play at?
Favorite venue?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I don't know that I have a favorite venue. What I do love playing the most out of all the types of venues are churches.
Really?
Absolutely. Like theaters are cool.
Yeah.
Arenas are neat, but there's something about inside a church environment where I think there's an expectation of impact. You know what I mean? Like we expect that on Sunday. We expect that on, Wednesday night gatherings or whenever. And concerts in a church are just my jam. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because do you feel like there's a difference between when you're out at just any other venue outside of the church? Does it feel like you have to put on the entertainment front in a different way than in the church? It's a spiritual leadership's worship capacity. Like, is there different? Do they elevate you in a different way? Is that why?
Like in theaters, it's just there's less. I feel like there's less participation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, maybe that's just me. Maybe it's the vibe I'm putting out.
Yeah.
Arenas are very big. And I don't know that I'm, called to play arenas if that's even a thing. But it's fun. Don't get me wrong. But you do leave like, oh, did we make an impact? I'm not sure. Where church environments are just set up to see everyone, And so I also think people they bring an expectation. They bring just the idea that they're going to participate. So I don't know what it is, but I think I'm, again, called to serve the local church, and here I am doing that. So
the sobering underlying thing that you're saying is it's not about me, it's about them.
Absolutely.
And for an artist to say that, it's beautiful, man.
No, man. I'm grateful to be the age I am, bringing the message I am. I say that a lot, but it's true. We've been through some storms in this life that have really given a lot of the Bible, credibility in my life. And so we hold to it.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah.
That's awesome. Last movie that made you cry?
Oh, gosh. I watched Ordinary Angels.
Ordinary? Which one?
Ordinary Angels. It's with Hilary Swank.
Okay.
And the guy that plays Reacher.
Oh, yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
He's great.
He is jacked.
And I watched it in two parts on my way to a show in Tulsa and on my way home. And I was a mess.
Yeah.
And these were early flights. These were like 6 a.m.ers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I haven't even got my morning coffee and I'm done. Yeah.
That's awesome. Favorite book outside of the Bible?
The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis.
Ooh, there you go.
That is right up there. What an expression of God's heart for us and his just continually giving us second chances to lay down our stuff. Yeah.
C.S. Lewis I still feel like any Christian needs to just go ahead and read every work that C.S. Lewis, and things would just be better.
Yeah.
It just would be.
I mean, it's a companion piece to the Bible. It doesn't hold up to the Bible, but it's this artistic take on, our theology. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. Our world would be better if more people read Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. So, all right.
There you go.
Biggest pet peeve?
Biggest pet peeve. Oh, man, I'm already going to throw my wife under the bus.
You have made it all 3 minutes,
Driving
Jordan. Go for it, buddy.
Heading into the drive-thru. She knows where we're going.
Yeah.
She knows the menu in and out. We go to this place all the time, and she does not know what she's going to order.
Yeah. I get so much anxiety. Since we're already doing it here, I get so much anxiety when we're in the car with the kids, and Kristen, my wife, she is confident enough that she'll just sit there for like a minute and a half.
Good for her.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't live in that world. I'm like,
yeah.
And so
it is something that I'm growing in, where I'm like, oh, you're gonna kind of like knock your wife for not knowing what she wants because the stranger, right, who you don't live with and you don't love, is asking you to order. I'm like, you can wait, dude.
Yeah.
You know, totally.
Dude, that is a new pet peeve for this podcast, and I love it. Favorite city to visit with your family or just touring?
Okay, so one of my favorite radio programmers in Oregon, Rick Stevens, Coos Bay, Oregon.
Okay.
Just a tiny little town.
Yeah.
Oregon's
beautiful, though.
Beautiful country out there. I also love, Phoenix, Arizona is great. It's just so unlike Canada. You know what I mean? We don't have the desert up there.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
Yeah.
What's your morning routine look like?
My morning routine looks a lot like just getting out of bed.
Yes, trying to survive.
Imagine this face, just trying to get out of bed. Let's see. I quit drinking coffee. I know.
That feels like a mistake.
I shouldn't say I quit drinking coffee. I've severely limited my coffee intake to...
What was the decision behind that?
So there was a season where I just kept losing my voice.
Okay.
And I was just dehydrated. And it was primarily allergies. Okay. It was this, Canadian boy getting used to Tennessee life. And it's been a rough go.
It's okay. California boy over here is doing the same thing. It's miserable. It's absolutely
miserable.
Hard. Yeah.
And so I decided, okay, I got to make some drastic changes. Let's quit coffee. And, the other main reason to that was I just want to not be so dependent on something. You know what I mean? And so now I just wake up. Like, seriously, the light's on, I wake up.
How bad were the withdrawals?
About 4 days, and then maybe like a couple months of missing my closest, dearest friend.
So overall, you would say, has it helped your voice?
No, I don't think it's helped my voice. I think it's helped my soul.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. Yep.
For real. Like coffee is a drug.
Yes.
I don't know if y'all knew that, but it is a drug. And so my wife and I, we do Saturday or coffee Saturdays, and I'll drink a cup of coffee. I will not need coffee Sunday morning.
Wow.
Like I will still feel that coffee.
Yeah.
It really works. And so just to be less dependent on something, you know what I mean?
That's beautiful. Yeah. I get it. People don't realize that as much as coffee, we drink a lot of coffee, and the anxiety that comes with it, stomach issues.
It's true, man.
It
is a culturally accepted drug.
Yes.
And promoted, especially in Christian circles.
Did you notice like any sort of brain fog or like anxiety?
I don't have brain fog.
Okay.
I don't have brain fog anymore.
Oh, so you'd say you had brain fog while you were drinking coffee?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you need that. You need that 1 p.m. cup of coffee.
All right, I don't know if I feel convicted about this. Your bad decision to quit coffee, it may not be my bad decision, but we'll see. We'll see.
It's okay, everybody. I'll work on them.
Yeah. I'll text you later. I don't need another group, recovery group from coffee now.
Absolutely.
Too. Favorite meal?
Let's go tacos. Tacos all day, every day. You know what? It's also a meal that my entire family, eats and doesn't whine about. So it makes it super easy.
Pragmatic answer.
Yeah.
There. If you could switch lives with one person in the present and then throughout history, who would be the two people?
Like two different people?
So like I would switch places with. I was about to say like a politician, but I feel like that's a loaded answer right now. And so I'll let you pick.
Oh, geez. One of my favorite things is biographies. I love reading people's stories. And so the problem with that is that as soon as you trade lives, you're getting all the good and all the bad that they've gone through. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I don't know that I want to.
Just for one day.
One day, like a good day?
Yeah, a good day. Solid good day.
Man, let's go with Bono.
I'd actually probably give the same answer.
Dude, I was never a big U2 fan growing up. But as I've gotten older, as I've read his book and just...
Surrender's
dude.
The audiobook is phenomenal.
The audiobook. He does voices.
Yes.
Yeah, he does like George Bush.
Yes.
It's so good. I'm like, he's a very interesting human being that I'd love to sit down with. So if I could just look in the mirror and...
being on like the original Joshua Tree tour or something like that, just for a day. All right.
For real.
We'll go on to the next one.
All right.
Favorite album of all time?
Favorite album of all time. Wow. I'm going to give this answer for two reasons. I don't think it's like the all-time best album in the world, but it is to me. And it's the Jars of Clay self-titled album.
Yep. Was Flood on that one?
Flood was on that one. So we got Christian music in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, when I was 13 years old. And, you had your DC Talks, your Newsboys, but then there was this band, Jars of Clay, and Flood was their first single. And it just was like, what is this? Mm-hmm. And I was getting into guitar and I'm like, this could be my thing. But I had a real heart for worship. And so it was when Love Song for a Savior came out. And I was like, oh, like we were talking earlier, this bridging the gap between kind of your typical contemporary Christian music and worship music. Mm-hmm. And they just kind of shoved them together. And I'm like, I want to walk that line, And
That's awesome.
The second reason being it united me and my brothers who saw, the world very differently. I would fight for the Christian station. They would fight for the rock station.
Yep.
When we
How
were
many brothers do you have?
2 brothers and a younger sister.
Okay.
But my brother specifically and I bonded that summer over that Jars of Clay album. And we probably burnt out 3 copies. Mm-hmm. Probably 3 copies from Columbia House back in the day. But so it was just a very defining, a very special and defining moment for me.
Yeah. That's what, when sometimes I ask that, I feel like people are like, oh, what's just the best album?
For everyone.
Yeah. And like, like, I love when people give the response of like, here's just a personal album.
Yeah.
It's not, that's amazing. I love it.
Right on.
What's one area of your life that you really wish you could improve?
Oh, man. How many?
We're hitting when we're hitting early.
Like, okay, so you're single, right? You're a selfish human being. Then you get married.
Yeah.
And you realize, oh, I'm more selfish than I thought, right? And then you have your kids and you're like, oh, I thought I dealt with this.
And it only gets deeper.
It only gets deeper. And I think, there's something about us as men that it's like our pride, our ego, and it's just, I'm just such a selfish person. How can I be more like my wife? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, wives are so much closer to heaven, so much closer to God in so many ways. Like, where would we be without them? Yeah. We wouldn't exist.
I think you're making up for throwing your wife under the bus with
with
the drive-through. Well done, Jordan.
No,
you're
man.
learning.
No, it's just the truth. Like seriously, her ability to serve our family is just night and day.
Remind us, how many kids do you have?
We got just the 4.
Okay, just the 4.
Just the 4. It is a war zone, man. And now it's summer break and it's like just keeping everybody satisfied and content. It's crazy. And it's like,
what's the age gap?
Age gap is 14 all the way to 5. Wow. Yeah. Our boys are 14 and 12. Our girls are 9 and 5.
Okay.
And it's awesome. Like seriously, it's everything. Take the music career away, take writing songs and these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every day you're both overwhelmed at being a dad of 4 and love being a dad of 4.
Yeah. I think that Jim Gaffigan joke, says it all. It's like, I think he was having, maybe it was 3rd or 4th. What's it like having another kid? It's like, well, imagine, drowning at sea and somebody throws you a baby. I love that so much.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Best life advice you've been given, whether it's, growing up from a coach or maybe producer, whatever it may be. Best life advice.
Say sorry.
Say sorry. There you go.
We're all going to get it wrong. And so my greatest tool with my boys, specifically, if I, lose my temper or I say something I didn't mean, is just to go up to them and say sorry. And it just changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about that on this podcast quite a bit. We have so many young dads on this podcast.
Yeah.
And that's what that's why it's been so great. I think people are responding to it so well because our target audience is young dads who we're all trying to figure this out.
Absolutely.
And literally, it's not that hard to recognize I just need to say sorry.
Yep.
And to treat my kid, in a way that you're modeling for him what he needs to grow up to be.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's a beautifully hard and so rewarding, of a conversation you get to have if you'll allow yourself to do it.
Yeah. Well, Jordan, man, let's talk more about the album right now because it just dropped.
Yeah.
I love that it's diverse.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Thank you. Man.
Yeah. And you did an amazing job at Versus Men's Night leading and having Rescue and debuting My Foundation with us, man.
Dude,
it was
such a pleasure.
Stellar.
Come on.
But tell me, so you've been sitting on this album for how long? What was the process like? I mean, like, tell us about your journey of making the album.
Yeah. So we've been sitting on some of these songs for a couple of years.
Wow.
There's one song in particular that I wrote in 2021, and it just didn't get its shot on the last album, so it's getting it on this one. And this song we wrote about 35, 40 songs. So typically I'll write 45, 50, but we just felt we had the songs in this batch, and so along with my label team, manager, we just whittled down these songs and chose what we felt was the best collection of songs. And then we got into the studio and started working them out. And so it's a process, and it's to come to the point where we have the finished product with the album artwork, and the production's done, the mixing is done, the mastering is done. It's a feat. Yeah. And so to be at this point, it's pretty great.
So when I listen to you as an artist, it's something that, especially now moving here to Nashville, you hear the CCM, contemporary Christian music more. I understand these terms now much better.
Right.
You kind of ride that line between, there's absolute worship songs in there. And that's, I mean, you hear played on the radio, those worship songs.
Right.
But then there's an element where you're doing something further. And I mean that in the sense of it feels like there's kind of lines in the sand I'm not trying to put words in, I'm not trying to make this a loaded conversation.
Yeah.
But like there's a level of just songwriting that's also different on your album.
Okay.
That I really enjoy, because you're bringing your life into it in a different way. That I love when worship artists are praise Jesus. Everything's about, something from scripture being pulled out.
Absolutely.
But there's also a genuine level of songwriting that if you get away from that, maybe as a man, I enjoy genuine songwriting and original. Like we were, but it feels like you're walking that line really well.
We're just trying to write the moments of our lives.
Yeah.
When I say we, I always say we because my name probably shouldn't be on the front of this album. You know what I mean? There's just so many team members that help bring it to fruition. But when I get in the songwriting room, I try to bring a piece of my life into it and tie that to a hook or a title. Mm-hmm. There's a song that we actually got to record a children's choir in this studio for the album. It's called Generation to Generation. And it's a conversation I had with my grandpa. I didn't have a great relationship with my grandpa. There was family stuff. And so I got to hang with him, a handful of times near the end of his life. And he came over and he made this statement that really stung. He said, "I'm so grateful to not be raising kids in this generation. I don't know how anybody could do it." You know what I mean? Meanwhile, my kids are like running around the house and doing that. And I'm like, I understand where you're coming from.
You understand the sentiment.
I understand the sentiment. But man, what really kind of grinded my gears is like, you believe the same God I do. Mm. And that same God who brought you through the Depression and, the Great Depression and World War II, you know what I mean, is going to bring my kids through and their kids through all the challenges that they will face. And so I just brought that conversation to the writing room one day and we wrote the song.
Dude, that's awesome.
And that's kind of typical for all the songs on the album.
Okay.
Yeah.
And dude, you're right. You are right. Like, it seems like there's a lot of guys, and this is just kind of, applying what you're saying. Feels like a lot of guys feel defeated by where we're at in the world. Like and like there's always that, the movement, and some of it's just secular.
Yeah.
Like where, especially with like, there's a lot of like masculine YouTubers and stuff like that, where it's like, you've been held down, you've been this, that. And it's just like, when you look at like the history of the world.
Yeah.
And even like this is more pertaining to like Christian men.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a doom and gloom. And like, things are really tough. And I think the state of the world is more complicated and chaotic than ever.
Sure.
But to feel defeated, I'm like, man, we're not even walking the wilderness for 40 years.
That's right.
We're not in World War III,
Couldn't agree more. It's like we were doing this tour in the US. This would have been, oh my goodness, this would have been the beginning of 2022. Mm-hmm. And I was still living in Canada. We were just about to move. and we had this big trucker rally in Canada.
Oh, yeah, I remember
so
that.
whenever
Yep.
we did the Q&A before the show, and everybody found out I was from Canada, the main question is like, what do you think about this trucker rally? Where do you stand on that? I'm like, I don't get my authority from the government.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have opinions, but you know what? I don't have the luxury to choose sides. You know, Jesus told me to lay it down. And so when I look at the world today, I'm like, I don't get my authority from the news, the government, the school systems, all the stuff that's going on. I get my authority from the same God who has been God for all time. And so I'm pretty content. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I know there's a job to do, but I think, and maybe this is a hot take, but I think our job is hearts and minds and less culture.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. You can't change your culture
I would
until you
love
have
a
the hearts and
redeemed
minds.
culture. That would be amazing.
Yep.
But you know what? All that would do is provide a lot of prosperity in which our humanity would then probably get a little sluggish. You know what I mean? I say this a lot, but you know what? In the South here, you can buy a lot of things at Walmart. You know, you can buy that sign that says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." You can't do that in Canada. You can't do that in Europe. It's like, these are good things, don't get me wrong, but they can't become the thing. And when it does, we can be complacent. And so
that's not a hot take. That's just wisdom.
Well, hey, I just don't want to overstep and provoke people further than they're willing to go. However, it allows me to be confident, not in our world, but in how God is going to take care of us. We're going to be great. Yeah.
Hey, man, dude, I love it. So Jordan, I know every song on the album is something that you're like, oh no, I was really connecting with that. That's why it's on there, right?
That's right.
You know, but like, what are some songs in the album that like people may not realize that there is a significant personal story behind that?
Sure.
There's that personal touch of like, I know this isn't going to probably be on the radio, or maybe it is.
Yeah.
But man, my heart's in this thing.
Man, there's a few that come to mind. I'll share a couple.
Yeah. There's
a song that closes out the album, and it's called "God Did a Good Thing," and it's an affectionate saying that my wife uses when she talks about our daughter, our youngest daughter. And for those of you that don't know, our youngest daughter was born with a rare brain condition. It's meant a lot of hospital visits, ambulance rides, seizure activity, high risk of stroke, all these things. And I will say she's doing so good right now. She's doing great. She's 5. She's riding her bike. She graduated from preschool. Like she's doing everything a 5-year-old should be doing. And so we are grateful. But the first few years were so tumultuous. They were so gray. There wasn't a lot of like certainty, and we didn't know what her life was going to look like or ours. And, as you begin to just take that next right step every day and trust that the Lord has it figured out, we've been able to say, God, you did a good thing. You did a good thing bringing this little girl into our life. I don't pretend to know the will of God, because growing up in a very, charismatic, upbringing, you would pray all pain and suffering away. However, this might be a hot take. This little girl, just as she is, has brought us so close to the Father's heart of God.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So then, what does that mean? What does that mean? I don't, did God intend for her to be this way? Well, knowing how heaven operates, maybe.
Yeah.
Because heaven will make everything sad become untrue. You know what I mean? And all this that we've gone through will be redeemed. And so
the through lines become so much clearer.
So much clearer.
Yeah. And
so pain and suffering for this, minuscule moment in time here on earth, we don't know, man.
Yeah. Do you, when you finish a song like that, do you literally finish it and like, have you ever had moments of like, you're just breaking down in tears of like, I can't even believe we just wrote this, and like you just feeling very intimate with God?
Yeah.
Like, does that, am I projecting that these things happen, or,
You know what? It's such an undertaking to take on a song. And I feel like when we're done, don't get me wrong, there have been moments, but I think they're few and far between. Usually it's like a month later, and I'll just feel like, wow, like, God, you are so kind that you would gift us this message to bring forth. There's like, I have a new song that is not on this album that I hope to cut one day. And it's called If I Would Have Known. And it just speaks to, I think, so many people who are dealing with chronic issues and family members. However, there's so much joy that comes with these, dare I say, afflictions, And I don't want to speak for people who are really suffering. You know what I mean? Like that's your own journey. All I know is what we've been through and what a lot of friends of ours have been through, that there's this odd privilege that we carry, and the Spirit of God that is in those situations. If I would have known the Spirit of God that I know now back then, I would have been less afraid. I could have let go and given you everything, and that's just it. Yeah. And I think God's desire is for us to know that part of his Spirit. And unfortunately, the way to know that is through the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think that's why, like, whether you're hearing you live sing or even on the album, I don't know, maybe it's just, hopefully this is a compliment, but like you hear the emotions. There's that heart piece that like you can hear right away. That's behind the voice.
Yeah.
And I mean, that it's, we talked about like U2 earlier, stuff like that. Like, those meanings behind those songs and the emotional voice in them.
Yeah.
And there's that radiates in some of what you're trying to do. And I think that's what's so different with worship. It's so easy to just sing the song.
To phone it in.
Yeah. And it's just like with My Foundation. Man, when you were playing that live, like you can see yourself singing that to whatever you were going through.
Yeah, we've been through stuff. Life, the song is really life as a house. You know what I mean? And the storms that it endures from the outside, but also the storms that it endures on the inside. And a lot of those storms are unseen, for many of us. And at the end of the day, I'm going to root my feet in Christ. And that has made all the difference for us. If we didn't have him, we'd come out the other side. Maybe we'd come out jaded. Maybe the God we believe in now isn't good. Mm-hmm. Maybe we believe he's distant, but it's just not true. Yeah. And our circumstances have been really the further proof that we need that he is. I think we live in a world that would say circumstance, hardship disproves a good God. And my experience has been the opposite.
Amen.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah.
So speaking of hardship, what songs made the album that you're like, man, it took every ounce of energy to get that thing through?
Okay, so this song called Easy.
Okay.
I loved this song from the moment we wrote it. And I came to the writing session with absolutely nothing. I was exhausted. I lost my voice. Like, I have nothing to give you guys, no ideas, no direction. And one of the writers said, well, it's a good thing that coming to Jesus is easy. Mm-hmm. I'm like, let's write that.
Yeah.
And so that song was written in 2021. And it had this chorus that actually ripped off a Jason Aldean song. Yeah. I had heard this Jason Aldean song. I'm like, oh, that's the same melody. We can't have that.
Yeah.
And so it just stayed on the shelf. And I, reached out to our guys that wrote it. And I'm like, we need to reshape this. But because that song was in a batch of songs for the first album and the album was already released, there was no urgency.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of in my stack of songs, and eventually we revisited. We rewrote the chorus melodically, and now it has this big soaring moment that I just love. And it starts off super gospel, but the guitar is blues, and there's just a lot of jazzy chords in it. But it's a worship song, and so it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's a bit of an outlier.
Yeah.
Do
you have songs that you sit there and say like, all right, I want this one to be more worshipy. I want this one to feel,
sure.
Like, does that actually go into like a decision in an album of like, all right, I got a solid 8 of this type,
Yeah.
Like, give us the behind the scenes on this.
Yeah, I think, a big part of an album is radio songs.
Yeah.
So you're going to need, 3 or 4,
yep,
maybe that really stand out where the label gets excited about, management, booking. Everybody's like, oh, we're all going to be able to have jobs. You know what I mean?
Which is good, just to clarify.
Absolutely. Yeah. But then there's those record, cuts that are, less radio, maybe less mainstream. But I think those are the songs that true fans gravitate towards. And I've heard this said a lot in the industry, but record cuts save lives. You know what I mean? They're the deep cuts that really showcase what's in the heart of the artist to bring forward. And I couldn't agree more.
How do you do this well with like taking your life experiences as a dad, husband, because you don't want to make a whole album just about that. And then it's like, well, man, you are a Christian worship artist, right?
Right,
so how do you balance that though?
I mean, it just is what it is.
Okay.
Like, I think for me, I'm a Christ follower.
Yeah.
And that is first and foremost. Well, it's not even in the realm of first, second, third. It's everything. Like it's central. It's like on a different plane. And then my wife knows that she's first in my life. And if all of a sudden this music thing didn't work, she knows that she has the right to call me home and say, I need you here, and then it's the kids, right? And it's kind of, there's an order there. I feel like there's an earthly order, which is, wife, kids, relationships, family members, all that. But God is strewn throughout all of that. And so to me, they don't really push against one another.
Okay.
It's just, I'm trying to write my story the best way I can that serves people, right? Because otherwise I'm just writing songs for me. Yeah. And I think, in essence, it's partly true. I desire a career. I like to do this for a living. But again, we're called to lay everything down. And so that's where the tension lies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good word. What are some other favorite moments that you had in writing this album?
Favorite moments. So a handful of the songs, we went into the studio and we did, live off the floor, everything. And so, to
get everyone together.
So drummer, bass player, guitar player, keyboard player, and they're just all in there just recording. I'm on the other side of the glass by the mixing console and just a part of the experience and saying like, oh, that's great. I really like that, but let's not do that over there. And so you're kind of, you get to put a producer hat on a little bit. So that was a first for me, and that was really cool. I got to write with some writers that just excite me. A guy that I wrote Weary Traveler with, Matthew West. He's a big deal in our industry, but he's just a formidable writer. Just has a way with words and has a way with connecting them to people. And so we've got a few songs with him on the album. Another guy, Jeff Pardo, he produced this song Easy Out, and he just crushed it. It's probably my favorite production on the album. So, yeah.
There's always going to be a different, like what the artist says their favorite, song is versus like.
Absolutely.
Where will we be seeing you this summer and into the fall?
Oh my gosh. I'm all over
you're touring.
All over the US.
Okay.
Let's see, doing festivals, all those sort of things. But I will be doing 8 shows with a buddy of mine, Jason Gray. And so we're just doing acoustic shows. And then this fall, I'm actually doing my first headline tour.
Do that.
The My Foundation
How does that
tour.
feel?
Terrifying. I just pray people show up.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it with some really great friends.
Yeah.
Chris Cleveland and Stars Go Dim, and a new up and coming band called the Band Table. And that group, they're all just worship pastors, worship leaders. And so we're just going to have the best time on the road. It's going to be a party.
How long will you be on for?
That tour should be about 20 plus dates. Okay. And so that'll kick off in October. Oh, yeah. So September, I've got about 16, 17 shows. Okay. And then same for October. And then it's just going to, rest of the year, it's going to be a little crazy.
So for the summer as a family, have you planned specific trips to fit on all in?
Yeah.
How are you guys?
We told the kids, I'm like, hey, we can go anywhere. Where do you want to go? We want to go home. We want to go back to Canada. And so end of July, we're going to head back home for, I think, 11 days.
Okay.
I've got one show kind of, in the beginning of that trip. So Heather and the kids are going to go first. And then I'm going to fly home after and meet up with them. And everybody's so excited. It's just, that's the thing. It's like, we would have never moved. We loved where we lived. We loved the people. And ultimately that's who we miss. It's just the people. And so we make a point of going home a couple times a year.
Yeah. And you have so many other, I mean, I feel like we have so many Canadians in Tennessee.
Yeah.
It is.
Dude, we flock here. The winters are so bad.
How is that when you're out for that much, especially like in the fall, like, as a dad?
Yeah.
Because that dad guilt probably hits you eventually.
Oh, totally.
How do you work through that?
Man.
I just didn't say work through it, but how do you engage?
Manage it?
Yeah, manage it.
I think it's managed. There's no solution.
Yeah.
There really isn't. The re-entry period after getting on the road can be really tough. The leaving period always brings anxiety. The best part of leaving will always be coming home, but it is a tension. Man, I don't have it figured out. And a lot of people ask how we're doing. It's like, well, today we've got it figured out, but tomorrow we might not. Yeah. And again, our home, my wife, our kids, they're it.
Yeah.
And music doesn't hold a candle to them.
Yeah.
Because the mission, what we're called to do, we can do that anywhere. And I hope I get to sing and write songs till I'm no longer here. But if that's not the case, that's okay. And holding the career with an open hand, I think, creates a healthy home,
Are you able to jump on FaceTime? Like, do you have kind of set times throughout the rhythms that you're out, or does it?
We've tried that. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because now that our boys are getting a little older, they're like at friend's house, they're gone. And I'm like, it's crazy. But something I've always done is if I've had to miss a birthday, it's FaceTime on stage.
Yeah.
We are doing this. And so they'll typically, be around the table eating dinner or whatever. And 7 o'clock or whenever I'm on, I'll FaceTime them and I'll get everybody to say happy birthday. And again, it's just to show them that I'm thinking of them and that you are above all this. This is cool. And yeah, it's neat that everybody said happy birthday, but that means nothing. It means you've got my attention right now more than these hundreds of people in front of me.
Dude, that's great. When you're gearing up for shows like something like this, like, what is the healthy amount of anxiety to just become the best artist you can? Like, what are you thinking through for like the fall of like, man, this is how I want things to be different? Like,
yeah, I think the main thing is just culture. When we're on the road, we want to have the best time together.
Yeah.
And the way we do that is by serving the least of these. There's always a least of these in any situation.
Yeah.
I was the least of these being the opener on some big tours.
Yeah.
In some instances, I was treated so well. And I'm like, I learned a lot. Oh, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And then in some instances, I wasn't thought of. And then I'm like, oh, that's what you don't want to do. And so that's what I'm most excited about. It's just by leading by example. And you know what? Everybody that you come into a conversation with is who God has for you right in that moment, whether it be the headline artist or whether it be the older lady who's making your breakfast. Like, that's it. Yeah.
Jordan, just thanks for making time to be on this with us, man.
Dude.
But and I'm sure you'll be back on again. And the thing that I just love about you is that you're so committed as a dad.
Yeah.
And talking with you in the first 3 minutes, that becomes very clear.
Right on.
And the music is it's obviously a priority, but it's the person behind the music. The reason the music is so good is because of who you are.
Man.
So just thank you for all that you do here at Rolling Hills for Verses. Guys, go out and listen to the new album, My Foundation. It's fantastic, and it's out right now.
Thank you, John.